Well, a very good afternoon to you, Arabile, and good afternoon to our viewers at home. We are coming to you live from Ulundi. This is where the Inkatha Freedom Party will be holding its historic elective conference. Historic in a sense that its founding president, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, will be stepping down after this conference. But with me to tell us more about the IFP, about the journey of the IFP, I'm joined by Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the IFP leader. Shenge, thank you very much for your time and welcome to the program.
Thanks very much.
44 years later, how has the journey been? 44 years later, Shenge, how has the journey been as the leader of the party?
It has been a very difficult journey, very challenging journey, but in fact a journey which I think I can only thank God that it's coming to an end.
You have taken a decision, Shenge, that you are officially now stepping down after leading the party for 44 years. What informed that decision this time around?
Actually, I wanted to retire many years ago. And actually, in the records of all the media houses, I mean, you'll find records that, you know, as long ago as 2009, I wanted to retire. But there were challenging things in the party, and the party then requested me to continue because there were critical challenges which they felt that we should tackle together, with me leading the party.
Looking at the current state of the party now, are you happy with the current state of the party?
Well, I'm quite happy because of the 2019 election, because I think the results indicated beyond any doubt that the IFP is still alive and that people in South Africa still need it. Because even in this province, we return to our position as an opposition party. So,
Shenge, you say the journey has not been easy, and everyone knows that because the party has had quite a number of challenges in terms of it losing some of its very senior members, like Umama Ungoskazi Kamagwaza Msebi, forming the NFP. How did that affect the party?
I think that probably that was the biggest challenge, because you see, Comrade Zanele Magwaza Msebi was our national chairperson, who had actually identified her as our candidate for the premiership. We had full confidence in her, but was unfortunately courted by the ruling party and defected in a most unexpected, you know, situation, because each time we raised the issue when there were rumors, he would cry buckets and buckets of crocodile tears, indicating that, you know, in fact it was false, and yet it was true. And the funny thing, of course, is that our former president, Mrs. Zuma, invited me to King's House, which is now Dube House in Durban, the official president's house. And I was accompanied by Mrs. Zakere Kumalo. When I got there that evening, I was surprised, because she said to me, he was suggesting that there were people now who were criticizing me and so on, and that he thinks it will sort of tarnish my legacy, and therefore he suggested to me that in order to protect my legacy, I should step down. So I said to Msholozi, thanks very much, because even though I belong to a different party, I regard you as the father of the country, and I don't resent you, you know, expressing your opinion about this matter. But however, some of the leaders of the ANC at the time, such as Mr. Tokyolo Suhwale, had already published in the media that we as IFP ill-treated women, you know, and some of the women in the province had actually been singing songs saying in isiZulu, what kind of man I am, who fears women, and all that. I said there were all those things. I remember the president had been out of the country, so he said that he didn't know anything about that. So I said, well, I would welcome your advice, but what about all these? You see?
Another issue, Shenge, that is facing the IFP has been the issue of its succession plan. You know, you founded the party 44 years ago. You have been at the helm of the party for all these years. The question perhaps that most people would want to understand is, do you have a clear succession plan, or did you have a clear succession plan as to who will take over after
Well,
your departure?
KwaZulu-Natal was my protege. I mean, that is a good example for you, because I regarded her as my protege. There were others too who were my proteges, who had been actually gone through the party and if you like, through my hands, whom I were expected to make good leaders.
You were talking about the role of the ANC in dividing the party. You have said that the ANC has betrayed you, because at some point you were a member of the ANC Youth League. How did the ANC betray you?
Well, I gave chapter and verse, of course, about the defection of Mrs. Mkwasa. But you see, as a cadre of the ANC, I was asked, actually, by Inkosi Albert Luthuli and Mr. Oliver Tambo. In fact, they sent Mr. Clopas Sibande, who later became the interim leader of the ANC in Gauteng. They sent him to my sister, who was married to a doctor in Davidton by the name of Mafu Totwana, whose son is my PA now, to say that although our movement, by our movement I mean ANC, because I belong to the ANC, are opposed to the fragmentation of our country into homelands and into development to Bantustans, they were pleading with me that if Amakosi and representatives of the Zulu people in the districts elect me, choose me to lead, in spite of the policy of our movement, the ANC, I must definitely take the lead, because they are confident that I'll make sure that this doesn't achieve, the destiny it's supposed to achieve. In other words, to make this area called KwaZulu-Natal. So that's how is what happened. So therefore, and then there was a debate about the issue of economic sanctions and disinvestment, because the ANC mission in exile, established by Inkosi Albert Luthuli, our leader, had actually urging the international community to impose economic sanctions and disinvestment on South Africa. So there was a debate about this. And then one of these debates was held in Ethiopia in 1974. And I was invited, together with my leader, Mr. Tambo. So we met in Nairobi, and in fact, that day, we stayed until the early hours of the morning, because he was worried, because he was going to urge the audience to support his view that, economic sanctions must be imposed on South Africa. And I was going to say that, no, our people have not yet endorsed that policy. Then Mr. Tambo, as my leader, said to me, no, I think the best thing that you should go to Addis Ababa, but I'll stay behind, because it will be bad if the two of us as leaders from South Africa disagree on an international platform. So I proceeded, and it remained in Nairobi. So on my return from Addis, I decided to go to Lusaka to see President Kenneth Kaunda, and also to Dar es Salaam to see President Julius Nyerere, to thank them for giving sanctuary to all our exiles. We traveled in the same plane, in fact, with Mr. Tambo to Lusaka. Then in Lusaka, I was very warmly received by President Kaunda, who was then the president of the frontline states, all the states that belong to this collective, which was called the frontline states. Apart from the dinner in the evening, he said, tomorrow, I would like you to go to the office of my party, UNIP, to visit it. I went there, and he said, after that, come back to State House. When I got to State House, it was full of senior leaders. And I remember even the Prime Minister, Mr. Mainza Chona, was there. Dr. Kaunda then said to me, we as frontline states are very grateful to you for what you're doing, because after Sharpeville, when the apartheid regime, killed our people in Sharpeville in 1960, there was no political activity our leaders were in jail, some were in exile. But then he said, you've kept the liberation struggle alive as the only voice. But that is not enough, he said. I suggest that when you get back to South Africa, you must form a membership-based organization. Well, I was startled because being a member of the ANC, how could I start another organization? So I had to consult my leader, Mr. Tambo. So Mr. Tambo said to me, I must go ahead. I was surprised. So then, in 1975, then I then launched Inkatha. I got advice from my then Bishop Alpheus Zulu, who was the Anglican Bishop of the Diocese of Zulu then. He said I must rather lean on the cultural side, because if I'm saying that I'm founding a purely political party, it will suffer the same fate as other movements. So I stated that I structured the Inkatha Inkululeko Yesizwe, National Cultural Liberation Movement, on the ideals of the ANC as propounded by the founding fathers in 1912. That the struggle will be conducted through non-violent means.
All right. Sheng, if I can just interrupt you there for a minute. At what point now did you decide that the Inkatha Freedom Party is no longer going to be a cultural movement? It's going to be a political party now in contested elections?
Actually, it's a pity that you interrupt me, because I think that even your listeners would be interested, if I told my story, without interruption. I'm sorry about that.
No.
So, after I founded Inkatha, even the colors, the same colors, the ANC and so on, because we're virtually a front of the ANC. So after that, we communicated with Mr. Tambo through emissaries, and sometimes we met in different places. We met in Mangosuthu, in Malawi. We met in Lagos, in Nigeria. I wanted to publish, a newspaper for the Inkatha. I went to Sweden. I approached an NGO there called CEDA. They said, no, we only deal with the ANC. So we can't deal with another organization. Then they said, well, unless Mr. Tambo agreed. But because we worked closely, I phoned him, and he came to Stockholm. And he actually nodded that they must give me money. And we actually published our newspaper through that. But I must tell you an incident which shows, this issue I'm complaining about as far as is concerned. Just then, one of my friends, Reverend Andrew Young from the United States, arrived. He was then the envoy of the United States at the United Nations. Then they told him that Buthelezi is here, your friend. Oh, then in excitement, the CEO of CEDA said, I'll arrange lunch, you'll have lunch. By the way, he said, you'll have another cherry on top because you'll see Mr. Tambo too. But Tambo did not want that to be known that we were together, you see, for various reasons. So a lie was told that Tambo did not arrive. I had lunch with Mr. Andrew Young in the dining room. Tambo's lunch was served in a tray in the bedroom, in the same house, and so on. So we did kind of hide-and-seek sort of relationship. But I was really surprised because, of course, it was Tambo and Mangosuthu, my leader, who had said that I must actually lead the so-called homeland of KwaZulu. So then, all along, we worked together all along. Then in 1979, Mr. Tambo then suggested to me that I should come to London with a delegation of Inkatha, because the debate hotted up on the economic sanctions and disinvestment, all over the world. And he said we must discuss it. So I left about 16 people to London, and Tambo came with his delegation, amongst whom was our former president, Mr. Mbeki. For 2.5 days, he put two issues before me. He said he wanted Inkatha to endorse the imposition of economic sanctions and disinvestment in South Africa, and also the armed struggle. So clearly our discussions were very cordial. There was no acrimony of any sort when we talked. And we couldn't agree, of course, but clearly I had no mandate to say that, I should endorse economic sanctions, because I addressed big rallies in Jabulani Amphitheatre, in Bloemfontein, at Langa in Cape Town, and I put the issue of economic sanctions, and people would always say, "We'll starve to death. We can't do that." They rejected that. Right. And the armed struggle too. The policy of the ANC as actually set up in 1912 was that there will negotiate, because a lot of bloodshed had taken place when they dispossessed us of our land. I mean, a lot of our people died.
All right. I want us now to focus on the current state of the IFP as a party. On the current state now of the IFP as the party. At some point, Shenge, the IFP was governing KwaZulu-Natal, but obviously they changed. Where did it go wrong?
Well, actually, it's a problem, because unless I tell the story, it's not possible for you to get a whole picture. Because what happened then, after that meeting, Mr. Tambo said that we were going to meet, because in December the NEC of the ANC was going to meet, and that he was going to come back to me. But sadly, he never came back to me. On June 1980, the Secretary General, Mr. Alfred Nzo, launched a blistering attack on me in London and called me a political careerist and so on. And I was surprised, of course. And then, of course, after that, if I may put it, the sluice gates were opened, because then I became a victim through Radio Freedom, through their publication Sichaba. They even published a very defamatory book, which defames not only myself but my whole family. Kaja, a chief with 2 agendas and so on. All that surprised me. But an important thing which I must mention is that Madiba's relationship with myself never broke. Because we communicated in 1989, he actually worried, because when they came back, of course, the ANC imposed what they call a people's war. That's when there was this nasty black on black violence, which cost us more than 20,000 people who died. Then we come to the negotiations. P.W. Porter suffered a stroke, and then Mr. Wericott, because I had refused to see P.W. Porter for 5 years. So Mr. de Klerk took over, then he invited me, he said, let's negotiate. So I said to him, let's put a committee together, looking at the factors that impede negotiations. So he chose a few of his ministers, I chose a few, including Rolly Arenstein, who was a lawyer that the ANC used in Durban and was the longest banned person in South Africa. And we came out with a condition that, a non-negotiable condition, that we're prepared to join him on condition that Mr. Mandela and other political prisoners are returning and those who are in exile return. Fortunately, Mr. de Klerk agreed to do that. Then we negotiated. Even the negotiations were very difficult, because in 1989, Mr. Mandela wrote to me to say that as soon as he's out of jail, the 2 of us must meet to try and address this shameful violence between our people. So indeed, when he was released, he phoned me, we were going to meet, but this meeting didn't take place. So Mr. Mandela visited what was then Transkei in the Eastern Cape. When he got there, Amakosi, they asked him, have you and Buthelezi met? Because they were all aware that he was my friend. We're close friends.
All right.
He said, no. They said, why? He said, UDF and leader of the ANC almost throttled me, saying that I mustn't meet him.
All right.
So we didn't meet with Mr. Mandela, my friend, my leader too, until the 29th of January 1991, almost a year after his release. Then we met in a hotel in Durban with a big delegation of the ANC and the IFP. And one of the resolutions we took was that from that time onwards, we're going to have joint rallies of the ANC and the IFP. Then a few weeks after that, I was invited by IFP in Maritzburg, in a place called Taylor's Hall, to hold a rally. So I contacted Madiba. I said, Madiba, here's an ideal situation, because a lot of violence took place in Maritzburg. I said we should then start with our joint rallies. He agreed with alacrity.
All right.
So a few days before we were due to go there, Dr. Oscar Domo was my Secretary General of the party, of the organization, it was not the party then, said to me, Madiba is no longer going there. So I phoned Madiba. Madiba, I hear we're no longer going together. He said, man, you don't know what happened. I said, what happened? He said, Mr. Harry Kwala, who was the leader of the Communist Party here and also of the ANC in the province, has come to Shell House. You remember, there was the headquarters of the ANC at the time,
yep,
with a busload of all leaders of the ANC in the province to say, under no circumstances should he agree to go there with me. You know, I'm a murderer. He shouldn't go with me. In the meantime, people were dying on both sides. So we're not to meet, you know. Then after that, various efforts were made. 3 people on one side, IFP and ANC, 15 people aside, 15 aside. All that didn't help. In 1999, Ms. Diba and I were invited by the people at Thokoza, because you know that a lot of people died at Thokoza, yeah, on both sides. So the people of Thokoza, fortunately, ANC and IFP got together. They erected a memorial structure there, and they wanted Madiba and I to go there, but Madiba was very busy. Right. So in October, and then in October, I was then, after the election, our president, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, and I went to address, to attend this rally, which was an emotional thing, of course, because people were crying on both sides. Right. I cannot, I remember it with great pain.
All right.
So what happened then after that, we had a joint rally with the ANC, right, and it was supposed to be the first of many.
Yeah.
But it was the first and last.
All right. Shenge, thank you very much for that background. I would like us now to focus on the current issues affecting the IFP. One of them, of course, is the issue of the succession. The current Secretary General of the party is expected to take over from you.
Yes.
But also we've had reports that the former chairperson of the IFP, Dr. Zibajiane, will be contesting that position. Do you welcome that contestation?
I mean, I don't even regard, I think it's nonsense. It's utter poppycock, if I may say. Because that Mr. Gianni, Dr. Gianni has been to and fro. He has been in all organizations. He broke away, and when he left the country and became a member of the PAC, on his return to South Africa, he joined the IFP, you know. Then worked in the party. Then he left again. He started Nadeco. It was snatched from him by Reverend Hau Mbata. Then he had the other organization he started. It fizzled. It also collapsed, and he went to the DA. And even there, I heard that he wanted a position, and the DA said that they don't lead like that. And then after that, he has sent many people, pastors. He has sent 2 retired Anglican priests, Reverend Dombela and Reverend Bata, and sent another pastor who is a friend of ours, Pastor Kennedy, Sam Kennedy, to say he wants to come back. And he was told that he made some statements that there was no democracy in Inkatha, and some very damaging statements. Then he came to the NEC. We said to him that he must go back. I said to the NEC, I have no problem, Dr. Gianna coming back. But the NEC then said no, but he needs to call a press conference like this and say all the things, the bad things that he said about the party and so on. Then it disappeared. Then he appeared again. Then he joined the ANC. What can you say about someone like that?
Shenge, speaking
if it was my relative, I would worry and suggest that his head should be read.
Shenge, speaking of democracy within the party itself, there are many who have actually alluded to the fact that your successor, Ubabu Uvelenkosi Nhlabisa, was actually handpicked by you. What would you say to those? I'm
glad that you asked me that question, because it's a blatant lie. You know, it's an absolute lie. In this press conference, I've got a member of the National Council who was present, because I said, when it was actually to prepare for my succession, I said to our people, I said the ANC, which is a ruling party, before they went to Nasrec, they've set an example for us. Anybody, I said this in the NEC, anyone who wants to stand up, I think should say so. No one stood up. And then the name of Mr. Nhlabisa was suggested. Then I said, well, it's not enough. Let's call all the structures now, because our conference, you know, we had postponed it because the election was soon. All the structures of the party, all the branches, our general council, councillors, members of parliament, all of them met in a hotel in Durban. And I said, look, ANC has set a very good democratic, example, where both men and women who wanted to be leaders of the ANC and Nasrec came out at Nasrec and said so. It should be open. Why should we do it by stealth ourselves? Deathly silence. No one came out. Then another leader of the IFP, in fact, I can tell you it was Mr. Singh, then proposed the name of Mr. Nhlabisa, said that, you know, we talked and so suggested that should we have a candidate, we proposed the name of Mr. Nhlabisa. And it was accepted without any dissent.
All right.
And subsequent to that, there were other meetings of all structures. Each time they endorsed the name of, but he was not handpicked by me.
All right.
But because, you know, they want to portray me in a certain way, some in the media, you know, tell a lie. And because, you know, during the war, I mean, before you were born, there was a propagandist that Hitler used by the name of Dr. Goebbels, who suggested that if you repeat a lie enough, it becomes the truth. So these people in the media seem to follow that gospel.
Shenge, we have about 5 minutes left before the conversation ends. But I just want to get your view on this. You are saying you are not expecting Dr. Giane to contest this position. But is there anyone else?
In fact, there was a very interesting article where our deputy chairman, Mngongo, explained the position that if one had defected, our constitution says that there should be a cooling period. You know, that for a year, if you have already defected, you cannot be, you know, then elected to any position. It's actually a rule in the first place that blocks him without any other arguments.
44 years later, Shenge, do you perhaps have any regrets about taking on this role of leading the party for so long?
No, I don't know. I think the people of South Africa will judge whether, in fact, it was worth my while. Because if there's any contribution I made, then it was through the Inkatha Freedom Party. It was a vehicle I used to do whatever, you know, may be my contribution to this country.
Obviously, we are expecting you to step down from the leadership role of the IFP, but you are still a member of Parliament.
Yes.
Where to from here after stepping down?
I expect this session is my last session. You know, then at the end of the session, I will not come back to this.
What is your wish for the IFP, Dr. Buthelezi? What is your wish for the IFP?
Well, I wish for the IFP because it is for surviving with all the attacks, with people who have bags and bags of money and all kinds of dirty tricks that have been used and survived. It means that there are people in South Africa, you know, who believe in the IFP, and therefore, actually, as I said, even the last election has shown that there is a significant, you know, number of people in South Africa who still believe in it, and I expect it, you know, to actually strengthen the branches and actually at grassroots to strengthen the party, because it has a very big role to play. It has been proven in the 44 years that it has a role to play in South Africa. It has made a contribution in the 44 years. In whatever has been done for the people of South Africa, there is a big footprint of the IFP.
Dr. Buthelezi, we would like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for affording us this opportunity to talk to you, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you, sir.
All right. That was the leader of the IFP, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who is stepping down from his position as the leader of the IFP after 44 years at the helm of the IFP. The conference is currently underway here in Ulundi, and we will be monitoring the developments there throughout the conference. But for now, let's throw back to Johannesburg.